Hello, beautiful people. So, this week, I've been thinking a lot about how, especially in the self development arena, there's often this outlook that we're like this project. We're this project that needs improving, and sometimes it lends itself to a little bit of this, whether it's conscious or unconscious, this kind of striving for perfection. Or we need to be fixed, or we need to be better, or we should change the way that we're feeling because how we're feeling isn't okay. And there's this constant well, who you are and where you're at right now is not okay. You need to change that. And of course, there's always room for growth, but this whole perspective of looking at ourselves as kind of these endless projects that need fixing and improving before we can get ... I don't think it's necessary. I really don't. So I want to look at that and just the simplification. Like, what is the simplest, most direct path to just being loved for who you are, whether that's you loving you or you being able to receive someone else loving you, because I think that's the most fundamental thing, right, that we all want is love. So let's dive in today about looking at changing the perspective of not needing to view yourself as such a hefty project. So let's dive in. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. As we're moving from a time that has been primarily very left brain, masculine, linear, taking on a lot of the qualities of the masculine, which I'm by no means vilifying. It's just I really like the analogy that I've shared in the past. It's kind of the bird flying with one wing is just going to fly in circles, right? It needs both wings to fly properly. So if I look at the past, the period that we've been in for quite a long time now, there's been a lot of focus around gathering knowledge. Like, things have gotten really into what do you know? Can you prove it? The science, the I need knowledge. I need lots and lots of knowledge. And that in and of itself isn't necessarily a bad thing, right? It's interesting. It's great to learn. We can definitely expand ourselves and grow through it. But it's just one part, right? It's just one aspect. And I think as we're coming into balance and bringing in some more feminine qualities and becoming the bird with two wings, we're moving from knowledge to knowing. And knowing is this real sense of actually the answers that I'm looking for have always been inside. As I spoke to last week, like, what is the most precious thing? Like, where would the creator of all that is hide the most precious thing? Inside of you. Like the inner verse, the inner standing of everything. There's a whole cosmos inside, right? There's a whole breadth of knowledge that comes through a knowing that I truly believe is actually already there, or we have access to it. It's more coming back to what Rumi said. Well, this is in relationship to love, but I think love is the essence of who we are. So I can also interject the word your true self, or anything really, which is he says your job is not to seek love, but to seek all the barriers that are keeping you from receiving that love. So a lot of the process is the peeling back of the onion, right? So with that, maybe the paradigm that we're kind of shifting into, which I do believe we are really shifting into different times. We have a lot more access to a greater consciousness, higher levels of frequency, different dimensions, if you will. For some, that will be too far out and you might be clicking off right now. And for some, they're like, yeah, this is great. I think it's always been there. It's just a matter of if we feel like we can see it. And again, I'm going to just repeat myself in saying that it's less about what are we attracting and it's more about what we're seeing. And we change what we see by what we know and what we believe in. So in this kind of time where there's also a lot of quantum leaps, things can happen very instantaneously. I mean, there's still sometimes the drudgery of the density of this realm. I get really frustrated because I can be very visionary. I can have ideas and a very strong, a vivid imagination, and want to create things right away, or I want to be there, and then it's like, oh God, in the 3D it really takes so long. Too long for my liking. But when it comes to ourselves, personally, our relationship to ourselves, I do think that we are just entering a time where we can collect the tools. Right? There's a lot of tools out there. There's a lot of amazing modalities and methods and techniques and systems and philosophies. But I think the moment we get so stuck in learning the dogma of it, or the philosophy of it, or the theory of it, and we kind of lose the actual just state of being, I just think it's like I said in the beginning, I think it's kind of unnecessary. And it can create this sense of like, you are a project, you are an ongoing project, and you need to be an analysis for God knows how long, and you got to figure all these things out. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. All of that stuff can be really helpful, but I think we are I was going to say, we are in a time where things can happen much more quickly. Now, with that said, I'm going to put an asterisk there, because I don't mean getting somewhere quickly by way of like, just give me the pill and let me press the button and boom, it's done. Like, we still have to engage. We have to engage, and we have to put in the effort. But what I'm speaking to is this way of being that actually maybe you don't have to, like, we don't have to try so hard. We don't have to try so hard. And it's really a matter of perspective, because life really just is. It just is. It is what it is. It's in the isness. It's neither good or bad or right or wrong. It's neutral, right? You've heard me say this a million times. So much of it is our perception. So if we're perceiving ourselves as a project, then it can feel kind of never ending. And I've had many clients over the years and years of working with them, or even people that I'm just speaking to in a consultation call, that are like, yeah, how long is this going to take? So I just come back to this. What if you could shift your perspective, your perception that you're not something that's not good enough, that's not worthy, that you need to go out to figure out who you are, that you've lost yourself, whatever it is, whatever the seeking is, whatever the improvement is, that if it's coming from a lack, a place of lack, like what if you were to shift that perception and know that like you are enough, that you are totally and completely okay, worthy, lovable, significant enough as you are. And that sounds really simple, because it is simple, but the question is, why is it so hard for people to believe that? Well, okay, you could say decades and generations of patterning, of habit, of belief systems, of indoctrination, of manipulation, of a lack of consciousness around parenting and educating, the way that societies run. Like there's a big wall of crap, right? That could really justify why it's so hard for us to believe that. But I think, again, in these times where consciousness is rising, and part of consciousness rising is, as I've shared in a previous podcast, is that like as the consciousness is rising, what's actually happening is in the embodiment, in the physical embodiment, we're dropping, because we're dropping down and in, right? So we're going from the theory, the theoretical, the philosophical, the concept, the rational, the logical, the mind, even spirituality, even a lot of, I studied Buddhism in my 20s and I really hit a wall with it because I just thought, there's really something missing. And for me, it was the feminine. It was the being. It was, and I have to be careful because of course they talk about being, but the irony for me was there is still so much conceptualizing of things. And it's like, no, just go straight to the being. Do we need to conceptualize it so much? Or can we really just trust? It's a radical trust of if we just shifted our center of gravity to come into the center of our being, still connected to our mind, as a center of intelligence, and connecting to our gut as a center of intelligence, but our heart is a huge center of intelligence. And as I said last week, the alignment and the harmony of all three coming and working together is ideal, right? That's what we're quote unquote striving for. But what if we were to base ourselves in the center? If you want to look at science, a lot of people ask the question, well, where is consciousness based in our body? And a lot of people would say consciousness is in the mind. But actually the resonance and the frequency, which they do have the science behind this now, of the heart is actually so much more powerful. The vibration, the magnetic field that it pulsates out is really, really powerful. I forget the hertz. I forget what it is, but I think it's like 3 times as much, or maybe I'm much more. Don't listen. I don't remember the technicalities of it, but it was substantially more powerful. And to me, it just makes sense because I think, okay, when I'm having a hard time, and I've been talking about this a little bit on my social media because I, coming back, even though it's temporary, coming back to the place where I was living was really a shock to my system on all levels. And it was really unpleasant. It was really difficult. And so I was met with empathy and solidarity and support. And then also there are the people that want to give you advice. There are the people that want to fix it. There are the people that are like, just like, but just change your way of being, like lighten up, don't, and it's like, I'm just I'm the type of person that's like, meet yourself where you're at. There's nothing wrong with it. You don't need to change it. You don't need to fix it because that's the whole thing. You're not a bloody project. Just like all of your emotions, all of your states of being deserve the respect, the patience, the time, and the presence to be with them. That's it. That is truly it. And that's what being is about. Being is just sit and be there and listen and feel and just be present with. It's easier to kind of think about it of like, what would you want your best friend to do for you? What would you want your partner to do for you? Most of the time, we don't say, oh, I want them to fix it for me. I want them to make me feel better. Yes, we could say, oh, I want to, please make me feel better. But you know what normally makes us feel better? Is when someone says, I'm here for you. I'm here with you. I'm listening. What do you need from me? Most of the time, most especially for women, we do not need fixing. It drives us crazy. We want presence. So, people can go into that place of like trying to change your state of being, trying to make it better. And most of the time, I really think they're coming from a well-intentioned place. Sometimes not. Most of the time, yes. But just coming back to this, like, being is just that. It's like you don't need to change where you're at right now. That doesn't mean that you don't have the want and desire and the inspiration to want to grow and evolve. I think that's a very natural characteristic of the soul. That's why it's here. But if we're trying to change who we are by way of saying how I'm feeling, how you're feeling right now is not okay, that's judgment. That's a conditionality, right? And so when I say you deserve to be loved right now, as you are, whether that's from and for yourself or by someone else and actually receiving it, because that's another thing. People can love us, but we might not be allowing ourselves to receive it. We have access to that and deserve that right now. There's nothing you need to change. Can you evolve in some areas? Can you become more self-aware? Sure, absolutely. But no judgment, no fixing, no making better. Being with and moving through. I know I'm repeating myself a lot these days, but I just feel that's like we've kind of been stuck in the mud, and I just do think it's the fastest route there is just come back to love. So as I was saying before, when I'm in a hard space, I'm going through a difficult time, or, I might feel challenged, or whatever it is, there are tools, there are theories. I could sit and really philosophize about it, but what I find myself doing these days is like, just drop back into your heart. Like, I'm really in my mind maybe in this moment. Maybe someone's annoying you. Maybe they're driving you crazy. Maybe you feel frustrated with this. Maybe this isn't working. And you feel yourself in that state of tension. And you remember how I've said in the past, I feel like I could boil it down, everything to two things. Are you in a state of relaxation, or are you in a state of tension? That's really the two most simplest things. Like, get out of good, bad, right, wrong. Am I in a state of tension or a state of relaxation? Now, we can't stay in relaxation all the time. It's bloody hard to do that. And sometimes the point of tension is fine. There's something to learn from it, right? But I think the invitation is like, when we find ourselves in a state of tension, and I do think it's important to like be aware of it so that we're not constantly in a state of tension, because that's just stress. That's a lot of stress, and that's hard for the body. So what I find is the most direct route is when I feel like I'm in a state of tension and I'm feeling frustrated or irritable or whatever it is. Okay, how do I come back into relaxation? Get out of the mind, get out of the judgment, come back into my heart, and drop back into love. And love is always going to be there. It's always going to be there. It's just coming back into the lap of it again and allowing it to hold us. And the reason why it's always there is because it is who we are. The essence of who we are, and the essence of all that is, of all creation, of consciousness itself, is love. It just is. So if there's an abundance of that, there is no limit, there is no rationing of it, right? It is always there. We have just told ourselves the story based on our childhood and our adolescence and our relationships and our friendships and our life, that, oh, love can be taken away, or we can lose love, or love can hurt you. Those are all belief systems. Yes, because we went through experiences that hurt us, but we made a story about it instead of just going, ouch, that hurts, because you know what? Yeah, love is also vulnerable. And being vulnerable and being human means that we also can get hurt. That's okay. That's part of it, folks. But do you see the difference of like, just stay and be with the feeling, with the sensation, with the emotion? No, the story leads us into judgment. It leads us into victimization and victimhood. It leads us into false belief systems, false narratives, and most especially false identities. I'm not loved. Nobody loves me. I'm not good enough. I'm not important enough. I'm not something enough. And really coming into being is forget the story and just feel the emotion. Feel the sensation. Drop from your mind into your heart. Like, go back into the lounge chair of love. Let it hold you. Let it massage your back. Those like chairs with the built-in massage, the rollers that feel mighty good. Let love do that. Let love hold you. Let love take care of you. And I know how hard it is if and when you find yourself really in a dark place. I know it. I've been there timeless times. And, I have several really dear girlfriends that were very, very close, my soul sisters, and I've witnessed them go through deep, dark, dark times. And just holding the space and being there and listening, being that presence that I spoke about earlier. And just knowing that no matter how goddamn hard it gets, reminding them, just open to love, open to love. Love is holding you. Whether I say that in words or I be that in my embodiment of the energy and the presence and the love that I'm giving them. And vice versa, right? They give that to me as well. When I'm in the pits, I mean, I had it like a week ago where I had a day where I just was like, F this. I was really just, hitting a wall again. And, one of my dearest girlfriends was like, I have no doubt that you're going to get through this, like zero doubt. You're going to be absolutely fine. And she had just gone through something and, I was reminding her and she came out and then I did, actually very, very swiftly. It was like I had gone and had some self-care. I took myself to the thermal baths. I went swimming, which my body and spirit really needs. And that's a part of this too, right? You want to let love in, love yourself, do the things that are loving towards yourself. So there is this wisdom of just, even if you don't 100% believe it right now, come see if you can drop into the knowing, not the knowledge, but the knowing of you are love. You are held in love. You are surrounded by love. You cannot not be. You cannot. Because it is you. You can't lose it. It can't abandon you. The only thing you can do is forget it. You can forget about it. You can forget about who you are. You can forget about what life and existence is. You can forget it, but you don't lose it. So you don't have to find it. You just have to remember it. And it is really just remembering you. And to remember you, you've got to drop into your heart. Because that's where the soul essence of who you are. I truly believe that's where it's residing. If we go into the mind, you could look at it more from the perspective of the pineal gland, but normally when we talk about the mind and the brain, we're talking about like the frontal lobe, like logical, rational, overthinking, the kind of shit that wakes you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and like spins you in circles, right? Like, no, that's not where consciousness resides. It's probably where the ego resides, but not consciousness. And when I speak to consciousness, that is the energy of existence. That's the thing that, like, when your body dies, your consciousness moves on. Your soul moves on. So, the simplest path is drop into your heart. No matter how hard it is, no matter how stuck you are in a pattern, I've worked with people that are, I can see they're still really, really stuck in their patterning, in their habits, in the choices that they're making, the same behavior, which creates the same habits, which creates the same patterns, which creates the same outcomes, which therefore revalidates in the wrong way their false beliefs and their false identity. I see them struggling, and they want so badly to get out. They want so badly to get out, and that is exactly the terminology. You're not going to get out. You're not going to get out of it. You have to drop into it, and you've got to love it all. I know you've heard me say it so many times. Love is the alchemist. You want to change? I don't even like using that word. But let's just use it for the sake of, that's what most people use. You want to change, you've got to love exactly where you are right now. Exactly where you are. You've got to love the stuff that annoys the shit out of you, that irritates you, that frustrates you, that limits you, that causes you pain, suffering, all of that stuff. You got to love it. You got to melt it. It's just energy. That's all it is. And energy is also endless and infinite and abundant. And it just can shift from one thing to the next. It's like water. And actually they say that the whole universe, everything is vapor. It's water. You move through water through the realms. I love how, when a baby is born, they break the waters. They come through the waters. There's like water. I don't know if you know anything about oh God, Veda Austin. Her work is so amazing and so beautiful on the consciousness of water. It is the most beautiful, magical, exquisite stuff you will come across. I really highly encourage you and invite you to look into her work. That, there's so much that's being discovered about the absolute wisdom and consciousness of water and how water runs through everything. And it's a beautiful metaphor as well, right? Because water can take any shape. So just like energy, even our feelings, our emotions, if all of it is energy, if all of it is frequency, you don't chop it up and like, I'm going to just chop this part off and I'm going to put it in the rubbish, right? Because there's no way, even with rubbish, our rubbish doesn't go away. It doesn't disintegrate. It gets piled somewhere. And sometimes it takes, like, God knows it'll be still there decades from now, hundreds of years from now, right? So there is no away. So this concept of like how I'm feeling, I want to get rid of it, I want to get out of it, I want it away. There is no away. There's only the transmutation, the alchemization, the shifting and transforming energy, consciousness. It can take different shape. So it takes different shape by your perception. How are you perceiving it? How would you like to perceive it? What is the energy that you're putting into it? What is the emotion that you're putting into it? That's why we are the sculptors of our reality. We're literally sculpting energy, consciousness, plasma. I know I'm getting far out there, but to hone it back in, even just our state of being, the energy in our body, the emotions and sensations in our body, we have the power to shift them. It's just that the mind, the identification can be so strong and so stubborn because remember what I've said before, we're more comfortable with the known, even if it doesn't serve us, than we are with the unknown because the unknown scares us. But as we shift more into feminine qualities, feminine embodiments, feminine values and characteristics, we get to become more comfortable with the unknown. We get to see the mystery and the magic of the unknown. We get to trust it. We get to come really into the present moment and trust each unfolding, unfurling moment. It's all a perception, and we get to choose. How do we want to perceive life? How do we want to perceive our experience? How do we want to perceive ourselves? This is a bit of a tangent, but it just came up. So I've never been one just for affirmations alone. I find that they could be slightly like a Band-Aid symptomatic fix for a lot of things. And I think if not attached to a feeling, they could be a little bit pointless. If attached to a feeling, then it's really about the feeling. It's really about the embodiment. So affirmations can be great if you connect it to a feeling and you really truly feel it and embody it in your being. But I was laughing with a friend of mine because I was saying, well, what if you just told yourself this thing 3 times every morning and every evening? And it's like, oh, I don't really believe in affirmations. And then I chuckled and I said, yeah, no, neither me in that way. And I said, but on the other hand, you are telling yourself an affirmation. It's not an affirmation, whatever the antonym of that would be. You're telling yourself that every day, which is I'm not good enough. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm weak. I'm small. I'm stupid. That is like a negative, quote unquote. I don't like using that word, but it is like a negative affirmation, right? So I'm like, well, you're doing it anyway. So you might as well do it in a way that actually is supportive and loving and, much more productive if we want some kind of productivity. So so all of it comes back down to, what do you want to perceive? What do you want to create? And what would life be like if you just directly went to your heart, to love, and know that you are love and you are held in love and you are guided by love? And that's it. It's super simple. Not always easy, but super, super simple. So if you find that like the whole project is getting a bit too much, the philosophy is getting a little bit overwhelming, the theory is getting a little bit too brainy, the invitation is invite yourself to just drop into your heart. Do it when you're frustrated with yourself, with your partner, with your kids, with your friends, with your boss, with your colleagues, with traffic. See if you can catch yourself. Don't berate yourself. Don't judge yourself. It's okay. It's part of being human. Whatever you're feeling, thinking, experiencing, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't change it. Don't make it better. Don't improve it. You don't need to be holier than thou. You get to just be human. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. Accept it. And then see if you can build the awareness that you can catch it in the moment, and then you can go, okay, I'm in this story, I'm in this reactivity, I'm having all these emotions, sensations, feelings. Okay, that's fine. But now what would it be like if I just dropped into heart and I dropped into love and I felt that radiating love surrounding me like a golden bubble of light, so that I get to just bathe myself in that, and that I can be generous with that, sending that out. You can experiment with this. Choose to go about your day, and like even when you're walking down the street or you're on a bus or you're on a tube or whatever, it helps to do it when you're around people, because then you can really see the response. Do it where you're just in your mind, and you're just in that kind of linear fashion, like go, do, get, whatever it is. And then try the opposite. Try the other way, which is really drop into your heart center. Feel the love within you. Radiate that love from you, like you are the sun and that's the sunbeams reaching out. And go about your day. Walk down the road, get on the bus, get on the tube, go into the grocery store, and I want you to notice the difference. I want you to notice how people relate to you differently, and I want you to notice how do you feel within yourself, and how does your day feel. I'm pretty much guarantee you're going to feel a difference. Now, with that said, I'm not saying that's a holier than thou place to be. It's just much more pleasurable. But if you're having a hard down day and you're moody and you're grumpy and you're hurting and you're suffering and you're sad and you're depressed and you're lonely, whatever that is, you can still hold yourself in that love. The invitation is still there to drop into your heart and hold it with love. You might not be able to beam it out. You might kind of be like giving the middle finger to the world, but hold it in the lap of love. And even that I'm sure, will shift it for you. Because what it will do is it will say, hey, you know what? It's okay. It's okay to feel all of that. There's nothing wrong with you. I'm here for you. I love you, no matter what. So the quickest route is drop into your heart and open yourself up to being held by love. I'll leave it at that. As always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.